All right, what's up, guys? This is insert podcast name here. We're a podcast about all interesting topics in gaming. I'm here with Teddy and Justin.
What's up? I'm Teddy.
I am Justin.
Awesome, and we'll get straight into it. So, what have you guys been up to? Do anything interesting lately? Slash, any gaming things you guys are looking forward to?
Justin, you got some big news. Want to talk about your bit first?
Yeah, I finished a game jam, second of three, for kind of a sort of local game jam to Portland, except it's not because it's entirely
You like
remote.
opened it up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have been slaving away and kind of burning in the fires of procrastination and putting everything off to finish my game jam. And so got it done. It was Pikmin inspired until we had to cut scope a lot to get things done by the deadline. But other than that, I've been heads deep in the Mega Man Battle Network series since the collection has been announced for like next year. And as like a fan of that series from it was 2001. It came out in 2001. First one came out in 2001 for the Game Boy Advance, and the fans have been left in a desert for like decades since the
Yeah.
last entry. So since the collection got released, pretty hyped for that. So I've been playing through the first one, which is very terrible game, very terrible game. But yeah,
It gets better. You'll be fine. You're in good hands.
Okay.
What have I been up to? I mean, I played Justin's game last night. It's awesome. It's super adorable. Like you say, it's pretty Pikmin inspired and you had to cut scope, but I feel like you've gotten like the core functionality of Pikmin in there with the little throne of aliens. So it's all good.
I die whenever someone says they play my game, and I'm also so thankful. Whenever someone spends any time at all playing my game, I'm just like, thank you so much. We
Yeah.
worked very hard on it, but yeah, I appreciate
It's
it.
sick. I broke it and I couldn't reproduce the bug, so it's just off into the ether. Your game is perfect and I like no reproducible bugs. So
Thank you.
you're good. What else have I been up to? I'm playing Monster Hunter Sunbreak. A bit of a Monster Hunter guy myself. I've finished through HR like 105, 107 maybe. So pretty happy to be through all the content. Although just got a sneak peek at the upcoming title updates, and boy, do I have opinions, which we'll probably save for another day. But yeah, that's the game that I've been grinding for the past. When did Sunbreak come out? Like almost a month now. So it's been a good time.
Been a month.
Yeah, it's been 3
I
weeks, I
did not know
think.
that.
Yeah, it came out June 30th, I think, maybe June 29th. So, yeah, I've been just selling my soul to Monster Hunter. It's all good. I'm having a great time.
As for
How about you, Jay?
myself, I've actually been doing same, or I'm not as probably big into Monster Hunter as Teddy is, but
Playing a
I
bit.
did start playing. I'm playing a bit now. I enjoy playing with Teddy. Uh, I'm I like certain kind of games, and Monster Hunter hits that make a build box.
Yeah,
Like feels good,
it's so
kind
good.
of
It's perfect.
feeling it. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you get a new weapon, get some new armor that fits nicely.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've been playing that. PoE announced their next league starts
Ooh.
August 19th. So I will probably be playing that. And then the last thing is so I don't know if you guys know this, but do you know what Digimon Survive is?
Yeah. Like who
Yeah,
doesn't?
so
I feel like we're all super excited for it. But tell the fans,
so,
dude, what's going on?
dude, so the
I have a
funny thing
little,
was like,
I have a little
dude,
Gabumon that I got for
Oh
oh,
shit. That's awesome.
dude, hell yeah. So, I got excited for this game, and when I saw that, like, oh, it was being announced over 2 years ago, and then out of nowhere, they released a trailer, and then they say they're releasing at the end of this month, and I was like, what the? So it's
Yeah.
coming out at the end of
Ooh.
this month. Yeah, yeah. So I will probably
Ooh.
play that.
Nice.
Yeah, so hopefully that's good. Um,
Damn, you're not
but
giving yourself a lot of time before the PoE league starts. It's like what?
I'm not,
Survive comes out, right? You play through Survive for 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then
Ew.
PoE league comes out, and then this podcast dies pretty much, right?
Basically, let's go.
It's just a waiting room for your
Uh,
PoE league.
exactly. Um, but yeah, that's let's get into actually the topic of today, which is free to play games. And sort of, we're not restricting ourselves to anything specifically for this one, but more on the psychological, you know, side of things, where why they're so addicting and things like that. Um, so honestly, like the biggest quote unquote free to play game out or debacle right now was the Diablo Immortal thing. Um, you know, it's free to play, but if you want to be competitive, drop $100,000 on our game. I feel
Is
like
it is it actually
that is
$100,000?
somebody did the math and it was close to something like 116K to like get everything in the game to like max out.
What the hell?
Yeah.
No way.
So if you got 116 grand to drop, hey, pop off. um, but yeah, so that's been pretty uh it's been pretty polarizing for the community, and I feel like it's extremely polarizing for the casual player. Um, what I've noticed a lot is the people that play games more competitively, if you will, uh, I feel like their stance I've noticed more is um they think this is like, a step in the wrong direction. This is scummy, like, Blizzard's a poop hole. And what I've noticed from like people who aren't as competitive is like, they say, a business needs to make money, like who cares? I'm having fun. Um, like you can just not play. And I understand both sides of it. I'm leaning way more towards the Blizzard scummy. This is definitely the wrong way to go. But yeah, do you guys have any thoughts and opinions about the whole Diablo Immortal fiasco?
I mean, Blizzard has just not had a good past couple of years, just with everything going down, and just to see that they've kind of, what I think is, right off the bat, like I think what they're doing is really scummy. But I think there's some points in like, hey, you don't have to play. I imagine like no one is turning around and dropping $100,000, but didn't they just like make a crazy amount during their beta or something like that? So
They made
it's clearly
1 mil per
working.
week.
$1 million
They
in a
made 1 mil
week.
a week
Oh my
per
gosh.
week, and
That's
they ran for
insane.
some. I think from what I read, I don't know the exact number to date, but
Hmm.
like maybe a few weeks ago, the number was 24 million uh, total
It's like
in
game's been
revenue.
out for like
So
2 months, maybe even in beta.
yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like a lot, people say, "Oh, you don't have to play," and like also Blizzard's a scummy company, but clearly there's like some sort of market, right? Like,
Yeah, I think it's also part of like something I'm a bit disappointed to see is a departure from like skill based progression, and more so it's like finding ways to monetize progression itself. Like there, it seems that from the sounds of it, if I imagine, I've not touched Diablo Immortal, like as a disclaimer, but I imagine if you want to get to that end game kind of build, you're going to have to either spend money or thousands of hours in the game, right? And so
yeah,
anyway, anytime you try and force a player to pay to win, essentially, even like in a non-competitive or maybe like not just for PvP, right? It's like if I want to get further in this game and pay money, it's just not a great feeling to run into that kind of wall.
It's interesting how often people will do something that hurts them. I mean, and that's a very deep philosophical thing, but in terms of like free to play games, there are like games you can like scroll on through whatever platform you're looking on, like Steam or mobile apps, and you'll see reviews where people are like, this game has like takes so long to grind, but then there's still like 100,000 people playing it, thousands of people playing it. So people will still play things that will like ask like enormous amounts of like time and or money. And an interesting thing is like sometimes there are players or yeah, there are players who are asking for things that they can spend money on. Kind of an interesting tangent with is Riot's auto battler based on League of Legends team fight tactics, one of their kind of lead developers was talking about recently they put out a premium skin in the game, and when you get like kind of a knockout in that game, it plays an animation, and this is the first like skin of its kind to do that. But you can't buy it directly. You have to you have to spend currency to like roll for it.
Oh
And the
no.
way they but the way they like balance that out is, well, quote unquote balance it out, is they put kind of like, if you roll for this, I think it's like $200. If you roll for this and you don't get it after $200, like you'll get it automatically. So it essentially costs $200. You could get it earlier, but it essentially costs $200. And they were talking about some of the reasoning behind it, and and he was pointing out that the developer Mort Dog was pointing out that there are users or customers essentially who are saying, "Hey, I want something I can spend my money on that's like premium," and the scarcity has like value, right? Because like no one else or very few people
Sure.
will have it because it costs
Because
$200,
no
and
one,
then
no one in their right mind is going to spend $200 on like
yeah,
a
and
TFT skin.
then he was like, "Hey, at the very least, like you can like gamble for it and like get a chance of getting it for less than $200, as opposed to like outright labeling it for $200." And then there's also the um, other discussion about like when you're starting to roll for things, you start getting into like sunk cost fallacy, and like you're like, well, I'm
Yeah.
already like $50 in, and might as well keep going, and then you're $200 into, yeah, but
Yeah.
there's like a
Dude, I would,
demand for like pain and like high cost items.
dude, you talking about that, like, that tangent it's so relevant to PoE because, uh, I don't want to get into it, but basically the concept is, uh, they make the highest end fun, quote unquote, fun stuff, right? Like basically like, game balance breaking items, like super rare because they want it to feel like the weight of items and like, want to
Yeah.
feel like an accomplishment. And it's very interesting to hear that some users want it through payment, um, whereas PoE is, it's just all luck based. So like whether you're here or not, but that's very interesting to hear that just want to dump money in. They want to feel like, hey, I'm the cool kid.
Yeah. I mean, Justin, do you still play TFT all that often? I guess maybe in another life when you're not doing game dev all the time. Like, are you still grinding TFT?
Yeah, I am not grinding it. So TFT releases kind of like its whole. TFT has like cycles where like
Hmm.
entire units and like real sets are swapped out. So, and they call it
Got it.
sets. So I was really into set. Actually, I played throughout earlier, like very here and there, and then I got really back into it in six, and then um, when there's a mid set, so 6.5, when set 6.5 came out, I decided to like really grind it, and I went for like master rank, which grinding for a higher ranking thing. I think TFT actually is one of the few games that I think are big where it's pretty easy to grind, I think,
Hmm.
to and like learn the game to get to a high rank, because you really just have to learn the game, and you can get a lot of that pretty easily through playing, and it's
Right.
so less reliant on like skill, like APM and like accuracy and things, that like
Hmm.
it's a pretty easy game to like get to a point where you can get a high rank. But yeah, I have not been playing the recent set, which came out, set 7, and I think it's been
Got
out
it.
for like a handful of months, 1 or 2 months. I've not been playing. I don't
Okay.
know if I'm gonna dip my toes into it. I like haven't had time. I kind of, but I still follow the community here and there,
Got it.
which is how
Has
I heard about the Yasuo Shibi, which was the skin.
Okay, so you haven't played a game where you've encountered that skin yourself. I was
No,
kind of probing for like a reaction for you, right? Like as a player, when you see that kind of animation, like is that something appealing to you as a
it's
player? Like, hey, I've sunk all this time in. Like, why? Like, it would be awesome to have this cool like cosmetic, or how do you feel about that? At least in this
So
case.
I've actually seen it and it looks cool as hell. I won't lie.
yeah,
It
it's pretty
looks
cool.
cool as
Okay.
hell.
All right.
Because it's like a Yasuo, like it's like the background turns blue. He like, swings his sword out like a
Okay.
blossom tree or something in the back. I don't know exactly what it was, but I've seen it because I watched Skara sometimes. Sheesh.
Okay.
Yeah, the best part is that it plays on your opponent's screen. So your opponent will like lose and they have to like sit there and watch this
And
like
like
kill
watch that
animation. It's this
animation.
full screen animation and it's like handful of seconds.
Okay.
But it's pretty gross. So I haven't seen it. But yeah, I haven't seen it in the handful of games I've played. And when I pop in on like the TFT Twitch streams every once in a while, I usually don't. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it all too often.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sort of equivalent and like, and it kind of goes to, you said was like kind of a an older form of progression commonly seen in video games, which was like skill-based progression. The equivalent of that for me was when I hit high rank in set 6.5 for TFT, and there are like a few very like, I don't think they're visually impressive, but you know, there's just that cost associated with it where it's like, hey, this is like 0.01% of the players for this set will get this, or it was probably like 0.03 or something, will get this cosmetic. And even though it's not a impressive cosmetic in my opinion, I have like value
It's like a
towards it
reward,
because of
right?
that.
Like a
Like
trophy
where,
for
yeah,
doing well and being
yeah,
part
yeah,
of
yeah.
something, right? Instead of dumping $200 into the game.
Yeah, but like
Mm.
it goes to your point too, because like I said, that visually isn't impressive. The like it's like a little border basically.
Hmm.
And then we were talking about the Yasuo Shippy, which is like the other form of progression, which is like money progression. And like Jay was like going off about how like sick it was, and it's the money is like definitely, you know, like that's where the money and time and budget is going into.
Yeah, man, that's crazy because I mean, I usually think of like mobile games as kind of the ones that will sink like you into like a crippling gambling addiction. But to hear that League has, you know, at least put in a $200 cap on one of those, like I always thought like, hey, you know, there are cosmetics available in your store. Like that's a perfectly like okay monetization method. But the minute you like start to put like drop rates on it and pull rates, it just like kind of blows my mind. I mean, like you can't really
So
uh, go ahead.
uh, I was just gonna ask. I'm sorry to bring it back to Path of Exile yet again, but their version of loot boxes, right, is
Hmm.
they have a loot box that runs for the league for that three
Okay,
months. And then after the 3 months is up, you can then purchase it in the shop for whatever set price they put, right? So all the stuff becomes available.
sure.
Uh, is that any better to you than having like that loot box
I guess I don't
drop rate?
know the monetization of the game itself. I would imagine there's like for a league, there's some sort of cost associated with it, right? In maybe the form of like a battle pass, right? That's another way to easily monetize something. No?
Like no, like it's free to play, and then like if you want to buy some cosmetics in their store, you can do that. Otherwise, it's totally. And then, like I said, there's that loot box thing that shows up every league. It has interesting cosmetics, and then
Hmm.
they become available 3 months later, basically after the league ends. The
Why
shop for
why do you think that it is okay to be a loot? I'm assuming that you think it's okay. Sorry, because you're just a fan of PoE. But like, is there any justification behind making this a loot box for that league? Like, why not just make it available immediately? Like, hey, we're kicking off season, 11 or whatever of PoE. Like, here's a commemorative skin. You can purchase it if you want.
um biggest reason is I think Justin brought it up that people want a money sink sometimes, and that's the whole reason they put it in.
Hmm.
And then also they're like, we don't want it to be an entire loot box, so after the 3 months is up, we just put it in the shop. Uh, so really, it's like what Justin said, like the user base wanted some way to sink money into the game while getting value out of it. Value, not really getting it, it's cosmetic, but
Got
yeah,
it.
value out of it. So they're I guess, their solution to it was make a loot box. They do have some form of a battle pass recently, which I
Hmm.
think is whack, but I don't we
so
talk
so it does
about
have a battle pass that is kind of whack.
they introduced it and you have to buy it if you want it. It's not it's and it's like it's like a really watered down version of a battle pass, and
Mhm.
to me, it's not really a battle pass. It's like instead of cosmetics, what they do is it's a unique item cosmetic. So it changes how that item, like
Mm,
the color of it or whatever, right?
sure.
It's not
Okay.
a yeah. So you have to wear that specific item to even see the effect. So that's why I say it's a very watered down version of.
One thing I wanted to talk about for that point you brought up, which is like, seasonal loot drops and then making it available for players afterwards. I think that makes it a little friendlier for consumers because there's less of that pressure of like, oh, if I don't, that kind of like less scarcity pressure where it's like, hey, if I don't get this now, I'm not going to be able to get it. So like, I'll throw $20, or however to like get it now. If it's available afterwards, then like maybe it's a little more expensive or a little bit harder to get or whatever, but at least like it's like, hey, if I still want it, I can get it later, and you don't feel like railroaded into committing to a financial purchase based on that like rashness. It does hurt the consumers a bit who are like, hey, I like wanted this exclusive thing for myself. But in terms of like friendlier overall, I think it is a slightly friendlier practice for consumers, as friendly
Yeah.
as like loot boxes can be for a
Right.
player.
And keep in mind, we're also only referring to cosmetics at this point when it comes to loot boxes and things. But really, when you think about it, I mean, there's a big elephant in the room when it comes to like pulling for games and things, and that's like Genshin Impact. Like what is it? Like $1 billion in sales in their first year out or something like that? Something absurd, right? Over $1 billion. And when you
Yeah,
think about
they're
it, like it's it's crazy. Go ahead.
crazy. I was gonna say their net worth revenue. I don't know which one it is. It's one of the two, but it's 3 billion, and that's
3
insane.
billion. Sounds like revenue to
Yeah,
me. It's an absurd
yeah,
amount of revenue at that, but wow, what the hell? So,
yeah,
I mean, when you think about like the characters that you're pulling, right? You have these 5 stars, like characters, and I think the weapons themselves. I'll be honest, I sunk maybe a good 40 minutes in a Genshin Impact to get my first free roll. Like, realized how long it would take to gather the materials in free to play, and decided that it just wasn't going to be for me because a lot of like towards the end game, and I have friends who continually play and progress that they have to get the 5-star units that are meta right now, and that just seems so like annoying to pull for. Like you think of, you can think of like the waifus and the husbandos of the world, right? Like I think, is it Ganyu that pulled like 15 million in revenue in her first like week of release or something like that.
Wow.
So, and I'm not sure if it's for the aesthetic and I'm not sure if it's for the meta, but I think like when you think of the weapons also being tied to that, you're going to have to like roll for the character, upgrade the character's weapon. You'll need like so many different currencies. So you buy your primos and you convert your primos to this, and then you convert like Y to Z. It just is kind of insane to me.
The another part of that's interesting is how often, and this is also in and outside of video games, is like how often like direct currencies are like so confusing to follow. So you can't really see, you put in like a $5 bill, you don't really know what that $5 bill gets you, because usually
Yeah.
it's like you get like there's like in a mobile game there's like 20 different currencies, and
Mm-hmm.
like you like convert them and you like earn them in different ways, and like you're just kind of confused. You're like, okay, I guess like I'll put $100 in. I guess I think that's what I need.
Yeah, it's super hard to keep track of, and I think it's honestly like a pretty predatory practice. And to tie that to like I said, progression rather than like cosmetics is where I start to see that line get a little blurred for me. Not so much like the concept of loot boxes themselves, although
So
Europe has different opinions on that. We can talk about that later.
yeah, the question I had for you guys is like talking about Genshin Impact and like basically buying power in games, right?
Mhm.
Uh, it clearly has a place in the marketplace, right? People
Oh yeah.
clearly like it, and yeah, and I understand it, right? Because as somebody who has normal 9 to 5, then you cook
How
dinner,
much
maybe
money did
work
you put
out.
into Genshin Impact today?
You can tell us. This is a safe space.
I've actually never played it,
Okay.
funnily enough. But yeah, like
Never played it.
um, yeah, yeah. I put money into other games, but
Okay.
whatever, it's fine. But basically, the question I have is, because obviously there being a market for it, like, what is uh, like, what do you think drives the consumer? Because we all clearly seem to think like it's sort of silly to dump money into a game where you buy power. Like, what real, I guess, skill expression is there in that? What kind of fulfillment, if you will, is really in that in there into pulling a lever and praying you get that 5 star. What do you guys think drives that consumer? Like, there, because the bit market's so big, like, um, there has to be some sort of hole/drive for it.
I mean, there are like so many factors you can think about. Like it really comes down to the objective of what those items in game end up doing. Like you said, I think you saying I have a 9 to 5, so I don't mind spending the money in. I think convenience is a big part of that, right? Like I think I have put money into a mobile game before, which is Dragalia Lost. Rip in pieces. I don't think the servers are down yet, but I put like $40 into it, and I bought like the starter pack, which is just like, oh my god, how predatory is that thing? And then I sunk in another, what is it, $20-$25, whatever it ended up being for skip tickets. Because basically for your upgrades and your facilities, right, you need to do quests, and in order to get the quests done, I just didn't have time because I was a busy student, and I really wanted to get to the end of the story, and I wanted to get like access to this new raid content and the blah blah blah. So I'm just going to sink some cash into these skip tickets. We have upgrade facilities. It's going to take 36 hours for me to go ahead and upgrade my, I don't know, my fire characters to do like +4 damage. Like, just give me that now. Like, I want it now. So I think convenience really can drive some of that stuff when it comes to again, like removing skill-based progression and really tying it to like time, which just people don't have.
I was wondering how you progress so fast. I was playing the free-to-play route kind of alongside you, and you were
Yeah,
like blazing. I was like, how is he doing this?
yeah. I thought I had told you that. Sorry to give you false expectations, but
The
yeah, I think
timings.
I remember it was. I remember it distinctly because Dragalia had just came out, and I was talking about it with a group of buddies in Discord, and I was kind of shitting on the starter pack. It's like, that's crazy. Who would sink $15 into this? And someone went, "I'll buy it if you buy it." I was like, you know what? Let's run that. No way you're putting money into a mobile game. So I dropped my $15 as a silly college kid, and they dropped $15 as a silly college kid, and there we were, $30 in the hole. So that's kind of how it started. But I mean, once I think that was one of my first purchases, if not my first purchase on the Apple App Store. Like, I had been clean until then. This is again in like 20, oh god, 17, 18 maybe. I forget when Dragalia came
Yeah,
out.
I think it's like 4 3 years,
Yeah.
4 years.
So that was my first kind of purchase. I had to set up, I think, PayPal to go through Apple, and I think it's just so easy to do it now. Like, I make in-app purchases elsewhere. Like, I'm a big webtoon fan, so I'll support the artist by like buying little like coins to tip them with. So I mean,
Nice, nice.
and that's just, it's instantaneous, right? If I want to buy like new coins, or if I want to buy $25 worth of skip tickets in Dragalia Lost, it's already hooked up to my account. It's so easy. Like, they've broken that barrier. Like, I am a whale. So I don't know, that starter pack, despite the massive discount, really kind of opens the door to just like so much more.
It's not, hey, give $5 to this webtoons artist. It's, hey, give 250 coins to the
Yeah.
webtoon artist. I had a similar social experience, and different games though. I was playing Pokemon Go on college, and
Hmm.
in college, and then we're showing up to a raid, and then I didn't get my. You need like you kind of need like a raid pass, I believe. It's been a while since I
Yeah.
played, so you need a raid pass, and you can get once per day, But there's like a certain situation which like I didn't get one, and then or I hadn't used mine already. I wouldn't be able to get one until tomorrow. And then there's like a group of people there, or a group of other like classmates, and I was like, well, I don't want to just sit around and look like a fool. I'm gonna put like $1, and I think I registered my credit card to my phone for that.
Yeah, there it is.
To put in $1 into Pokemon Go, and you know that's also like at a broader spectrum, because there are like, you know, communities for like every, you know, sort of active free to play game. There are people talking about like different builds and everything, and I think that also feeds into it. Uh, and I guess once you sort of see like other people, you know, putting money into it, you're kind of like, hey, yeah, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
You feel less weird, I guess, because you're not like looking at it as an outsider. You kind of like look around, you see people around you, and you kind of are more eager to participate in something. And so I feel like that's also kind of an underrated part of gacha games, which is like the community behind it.
Yeah. I think we're even now, because I'm pretty sure I was on that second raid and it was a Rayquaza, and I wasn't sure how everyone was running it back, because I had like booted up the app and I was like, okay, let me try this, because I hadn't opened Pokemon Go in 2 years or whatever it was, and just seeing people like go and fight this thing is like, I have no idea like what the raid pass is. Like, I don't have any coins. I was like, oh, these people just play a lot. Didn't know you dropped $1, Justin. I'd say we're even now. My $40 and your $1.
$1 gets you far. $1 gets you pretty far.
It's fair enough.
Got a Mewtwo, I think, out of that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I do think the social aspect is huge there. Sorry to cut you off there, Jay.
No, for sure. I do have a question for, like, you know, where we've been talking about like loot boxes, sort of pay for power. We even talked a little bit about the pay for cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a, like, for free to play games specifically, so things like League, you know, Genshin Impact, Fortnite, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a preferred way you'd like to see the business, you know, conduct their monetization methods? Do you not particularly care? You know, I guess where do you guys lie for that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends like what I'm getting out of it. Typically, I think like thankfully I don't naturally gravitate. I'll like naturally repel things that I think are very predatory in terms of like a monetization practice. Because it kind of comes down to like how am I spending my time. Um, Usually I guess like my barriers for when I decide to like spend on a free to play game is I've spent a lot of time on it already, or it's something that I played a lot with friends, and then I'll be like, hey, you know what, yeah, sure, you can have my $20. I've spent like 100 hours, 1,000 hours already, and that definitely will still like net more money out of me, because I think like on terms of skins, I used to play League of Legends a lot. In terms of skins, I probably have spent like a few hundred, like 200 or so, 100 or so, skins for myself, and like, you know, skins for friends. Even though, you know, $200 is a lot more than like your typical like $60 game or $70 game nowadays. But I think like if I am thankfully like a bit like savvy, a little bit more savvy in terms of like seeing practices, and like, hey, if I play this game, it'll take like, you know, it's pretty bad for you to play this game. And thankfully, you know, online it's easy to see people call things out as like app store reviews. When I'm like looking for games to play on my phone, a lot of people say like 4 stars. Hey, I'm just warning you that this game will like punches like a sucker. It costs so much money, or like a million. It costs like millions of hours of your time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're lucky in that sense, kind of looping back to Justin, your point about like the social impact of things. Just that like our friend group and what sounds like the friend groups like around us just don't care all too much about like either the cosmetics or the pay to win side of things. Right. I think, you know, when Genshin, if you pull like a 5-star, you can like post it on Twitter and get like primo gems. Right. And I think that social proof, like we are not going to post our losses. I'm not going to post my like batch of 3-star weapons, right? Like I'm only going to post when I pull like my husbando, right? So I think we're lucky that we don't, like, none of us or we're not really around people who experience that. So I think for me, like, monetization is a bit skewed in that sense. Like, I totally think that we should support games. I think $60 is just such a joke price at this point, especially with everything going on. It's like games have been $60 for far too long, like a decade or too long. And so I try and support games like when, you know, I find it reasonable. Like I definitely think, you know, battle passes are like okay if they offer like certain rewards and things, but it's like what, again, I guess for me, that's a bit of a money sink. I think of Apex Legends when I was playing that a lot when it first released, and they just put out the first battle pass. I think it's like, I want to say $10. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, like I'll pick up the battle pass, you know, get myself a couple extra like cases to open and just like support them, right? Because I want Apex to keep going, and that's kind of my whole reason behind like buying into like small bits of monetization there. And it's like same thing with my $40 at Dragalia. It's like if I didn't want to support them, then I wouldn't. But it's like actually there are far too many ways for me to support a mobile game. So maybe that's a bad example. But yeah, I definitely have some pretty strict guidelines about how I feel about the game first before I really think about the practices.
Justin, you brought up an interesting point of like, I think, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but you said it depends on what you're trying to get out of that game, right? Like, do you, like, I guess, what kind of gamer are you? Like, do you bounce between games? Like, do you sometimes, you know, lean towards the free-to-play game because, yeah, I guess, like, because, you know, it's because you said it depends on what you're looking for. Like, what, I guess, would you look for in a specifically free-to-play game?
Yeah, somewhat counterintuitively, like I've tried to get into mobile games, and I've thought about it a lot, and I come to the conclusion that I shouldn't. But I said this earlier, but like I naturally like repel against like free to play games because I will just get into it, and like usually I'll find um, one thing for a lot of them is like the gameplay is just not a draw for me. The story is usually annoying, or the characters are usually annoying compared to like usually games that aren't produced to necessarily be free to play. And so I tried playing because it's the allure of like, hey, I'm like a time starving human being. I would love to have something that I can pull up for 5 minutes. And one thing is that like I haven't found anything that I can like really stick into for 5 minutes, except for Dragalia Lost. I was playing that quite a bit around that time as well. But and and the other thing is like, hey, realistically, even if you do find something like that's like a bite-sized game, you're gonna be spending more than 5 minutes at a time. Like
Yeah.
these things are built to be a black hole at like addictiveness. And like something we didn't mention yet is like, you know, the UI and visual effects and audio cues are all engineered. They have this down to a T to
Yeah.
like just trigger this thing in your brainstem that's like, oh, that's good. I want more. I'm gonna put, hey, I put $5 into that, and that felt good. I'll put like $10 more
Yeah.
in,
You're
or
just in a casino.
yeah, or like they get you playing long enough because like there's that practice that almost every free to play game has, which is like your progression is like like you're a star blazer, you're the best gamer I've ever seen, and you're like leveling so fast, you're getting so many rewards, this, that, and that, and then you're like, hey, this is pretty fun, I want to play more, and if you play long enough, you might put like some money into it, but yeah, I kind of I think like I had to be impressed by the gameplay usually, and I had to find like um that like there's something I can put that I can put time into it, and I like get my value, and I don't feel like something is wasting my time as much on purpose. A lot of times I'll like bounce away if I'm like noticing that.
When you guys play games in general, not just thinking of free to play, are you more in like a competitive mindset that you want to like win or succeed, whether it be at like the story or PvP or PvE or whatever, or is it like more of a completionist mindset, or are you just kind of looking to explore? Like how do you want to spend your time, I guess, is my question.
Uh, for free to play games, like, dude,
I just
I've
mean
tried
in
looking.
like general.
Oh, so I prefer PvE games. Like, I'm very
Mhm.
big. I'm not big into PvP. I mean, I say that, but I have, hundreds of hours in League. So what do I know? But, uh, but like, the only mobile game that I still have that like has that gacha aspect on my phone is Puzzles and Dragons, and I have like literally thousands of days logged in, and like I haven't spent $1 though. But it's the reason I like it so much is it's one of the few mobile games I've played where it has a really good PvE aspect, and it doesn't focus so hard on the PvE. And I've played like the PvP games, and it just feels like I gotta dump in so much money to be competitive that I hate it. Like,
Yeah,
it feels like I'm losing at the game. And then the story driven ones, like those are the ones like, yeah, I probably like more. Um, like their PvE, like it's very like I play to relax, right?
sure.
Um, so yeah, that's like what I look for more in a game, I would say. Like if it's more solo player, it feels more friendly,
Mhm.
especially the monetization systems, right? Because
Right.
uh, if you are a solo player, uh, it's not are you better than the person next to you, so you don't have to like, you know, basically compete for like that best items. And almost always in PvP games, like the best items and the best way to progress or make money or currency or whatever it is in that game is to do PvP and to be at the top of the ladder. And usually it's like, after the week or after a few months, like
Sure. Yeah.
cash out for being at the top.
I guess like
So
I haven't touched Puzzles and Dragons in a very long time, but as one of the, I guess, older mobile games at this point, huh?
yeah.
I remember them being one of the first to make me realize that they're kind of taking advantage of loss aversion. Like, is it still the case in like the puzzle levels themselves? If you're to fail, you're like accumulating items as you go, right? As you're getting through parts of the level, and if you lose, it's like, hey, you gotta hit retry, otherwise you're gonna lose all of like this stuff that you've got across like the level. Do you really want to do that, or do you want to spend $1 and go one more time and keep all your items? You know, like it's
Yeah.
like I understand compared to some of the other like pay to win models that we've talked about today that Puzzle Dragons doesn't seem so bad, but I still think it's there, and I just don't know like how I feel about it or
Oh,
if it's still even in the game.
it's still there, very, very prevalent.
Okay.
However, um, you know what it all, you know what the weird thing is? You know what it feels like if you play a mobile game when it first comes out? Uh, like they give out so many free rewards. If
Oh
like you just
yeah,
log in every day, right? It feels like you don't need to pay to win.
yeah,
But it's again going back to what Justin said. Hey, dump in, 10,000 hours, and hey, you'll be good as somebody who spent $3,000, right? Um, so so yeah, it still has that. It still has loot box. Like, yeah, I don't agree with it, but it's been on my phone so long, and like honestly, uh, I don't play it that much, but it's got a special place in my heart because like I've literally played it or I've logged in because it tells you how many like login days you have.
hmm,
Uh, I've logged in for over like 4+ years, like in days, right?
wow,
Um, yeah, so I used to love that game. I used to love passing time with that game. So yeah, like Justin was saying, like what you get out of the game, and I think it's very different for everybody. But I got what I got out of that game, like what I wanted out of that game. But I still somehow didn't pay $1. But I think it's because I started early,
yeah,
and I did dump a bunch of hours of my life into it. But yeah, I do agree with you that I do hate that. Like, hey, spend $1 here, continue.
yeah. Okay.
Another interesting thing is that these live services games are so temporal. Like they don't last. Like
Mm,
little Jimmy, who played this game for like every day and sunk 5,000 hours in, eventually the company's gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna pull the plug. I already made my money, and then like all your
Yeah.
cosmetics, all your money, it's like gone. You can't go back and look at little Jimmy's favorite husbando that he pulled on Genshin Impact. It will probably eventually be gone because um, companies aren't really will eventually not not see a need in like keeping servers alive to if past a certain point. And
Right.
so like it's probably not as big of a deal now because we're only like this free to play mania has only been happening for like a decade ish or so, give or take. And like, but I think a few decades now, like we're gonna see like a lot of our childhood memories like dying out. And
Mhm.
Dragalia Lost, which is getting shut down, Teddy and I have both put in like definitely a lot of hours into that. That's
Yeah.
going away. So I even now I'm already feeling like, oh man, my sick pulls where I had like the luck of the gods are all
Yeah.
disappearing.
It's
I
like
can
it's
only
all
like
gone now. It doesn't mean anything to me.
yeah, I can only like dream about them or like look at pictures of like the like official art. I can't look at like my account or like what I pulled. That's gonna be gone. Um, so yeah.
Dude, and two things. One, just to go back to your point of they have like the UI down to a T. Like when you roll, like they used to have like, oh, you could roll silver, but really silver's gone. It's only gold and rainbow eggs. And then like the gold egg says like, rare and like shiny letters and like it has a whole animation for the thing. And then the rainbow ones are super rare and it's like in rainbow and like,
Yep.
little fireworks going
I
off.
I remember the
Um,
dopamine hits.
yeah, yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is the word I remember the reason I stopped playing mobile games actually, or it was one of the big reasons, is you brought up the point of, Dragalia's closing down. Well, a game I used to play, I think it's called Brave Front. No, not Brave Frontier. Sorry, that's a Nintendo DS game. No, I think it's called Brave Frontier. I think they stole the name, but uh, like I played that for like a decent chunk, like maybe 200 plus hours, right? And then they shut down, but then they released the same publisher released the same game, but it's like
Oh,
a different name and like literally
nothing
the
carried over.
same. No, nothing carried over because they like I don't know why they shut it down. I didn't look into it. I just remember like they said they're shutting down, and I was like, "What the poop?" And then I was like, "All right, whatever." And then so yeah, like, can you like? I was just like, how could they? Like they just came back like with a different shittier name and like it was it was literally the same goddamn characters too that you started with and like the
Oh
same
man.
concept of the game like it was literally a copy and paste. Like and then I even saw like uh another publisher like literally copy and pasted their game uh into like their thing. But yeah, like that is like the worst. Like when a game shuts down, but then they come back and it's the same exact game, and you're just like, what? Why?
I mean, I think I'd be pretty happy for a Drugali loss too at this point, but maybe the
Yeah,
grass is greener, man.
yeah, that's the thing. There will be like
Uh,
you'll have like the like memory of a goldfish. You'll be like, whoa, it's back, and you'll be so happy, and you'll like forget all of the abuses that company did to you,
Yeah.
and like everything you've lost. You're just like, oh
no,
wow,
I
it's
was
back. I'm
tilted,
so
dude.
excited.
No, I
Except
was tilted.
Unless you're Jay. Jay
Damn.
immediately
Yeah.
saw
I was
red.
like, dude, I was like, you dumb poopers are gonna come back and because I don't think like I said, I like more of the PvP games, and so this one did have PvP, but it was very heavily focused towards the PvE. And dude, it was so troll how long the story took. It was like, you know, you like I sometimes like mobile games when I'm busy in life because they have that stupid auto feature, right? And I'm not doing anything, and I'm chilling, and I'm watching myself collect gold. So it's that auto feature, and like to play through the whole story again would have been like another at least 10, 15 plus hours, and it's like not fun gameplay, right? It's me pressing the auto button, right? Um, and so yeah, like sometimes I want to play the game. Like I was at a point in the game where like all the content I was doing was like pretty hard. Like if I wanted to beat it, like even if I had like the really good units, like I had to like, plan out my skills and stuff and plan out what team I was bringing. But then like, yeah, I started over. So,
That's like a good
yeah.
reaction. I think we should probably have that reaction.
Yeah.
I
We'll see
mean,
when we get
the
there.
thing is,
Yeah,
no,
Dragalia 7.
it depends, right? Because it's like I can totally see like, uh, feeling like nostalgia, like wow, my game's coming back. Hey, I'm like older now, like you get that nostalgia hit. Like this was so much fun when I used to play with the boys. We'd hop on Discord and, you know, summon the rift, right?
Right.
Whenever Dragalia lost. So I can totally see the opposite happening, right? But I played solo, so I was still.
That'll be us in like 50 years when Monster Hunter XXL for the Nintendo Switch comes out, and then we're like, hey, let's go play Monster Hunter Rise, and we're all like we're all like surviving and like dealing with multiple hernias in a retirement home on
Yeah.
Discord, playing the old Monster Hunter.
Oh, it's a dream life.
It is. It really is. Something I did want to talk about that we didn't really. I think Teddy, you touched on it a little bit, but really loot boxes and like sort of their like how they changed. Um, when loot boxes first came out. Do you guys remember the first game that did loot boxes? Uh, for like that you can remember that like the first game you played where you were introduced to loot boxes? Because for me, it was for FIFA 15, uh, Ultimate Team or whatever it was, and like you had to buy packs to like get people if you
Hmm.
play online with a good team.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think FIFA may be among the first, right? FIFA is obviously the prime example, right? And even like the EU's in their tirade against loot boxes are citing FIFA and I think like one other game on.
Raid Shadow Legends.
It's Raid. That's so
Good
funny.
game. Great game.
Great game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great transition to today's sponsor. It's like,
Yeah, I wish.
The
But
companies are taking their money. Hey, we're taking your money too.
yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean,
I feel
you
like
must have.
Overwatch was for me. I feel like that was the first time I like interacted with loot boxes, and like that's when the vocabulary around loot boxes I started to like see them. But they're definitely earlier examples.
Yeah.
But I feel like Overwatch for me is one of the earlier things I remember, which isn't even that old, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's one of the more significant things I remember.
Yeah.
when you played Overwatch, did they display the rates at which you can get stuff?
No,
No.
that's very new, I think, and it might not even be around because that's like a China specific law, right? So most gacha games have to have it because they have to disclose the rates at which they drop now. I think that happened in 2018 or 19, where you have to come out and disclose, hey, like here are all the drop rates for our mobile games.
So, to my knowledge, I thought it started in the EU. I thought EU was like the first, country
Yeah.
that was like, oh, hey, loot boxes are pretty unethical. You need to disclose rates if you want to have a loot box in
Mhm.
European stores or whatever, right? Like if you want
Sure.
to run in Europe, basically.
Yeah, it could have been
I
like a
didn't know if,
parallel start. Like
yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know where it started at all.
But yeah, and it's very interesting to see in China, but also I know like China has like such a big mobile gaming community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know it's very big there, at least from, I don't know anybody that lives in China, but from the outside looking in, I hear that it's like really big there. It's like, people really like get into mobile games there. So it's very interesting.
And you think the gaming market in general, just like population wise, largely China's fueling that, right? Especially considering like I may be stepping out of bounds here, but like from my understanding, at least like in our friend group, spending on mobile games is not something common. And I guess I'm not around people that do. So I'm just curious as to like how that is more acceptable, like in different cultures, right? It's like among younger people, like among gamers, right? Like who is spending this money? Like where are the game devs listening? Because that's where all the money is. Like what are they trying to provide to what audience?
Yeah, and go back to like to a point we mentioned earlier, like you were talking about how like, hey, you show your friend, this item you pulled or whatever, right? Um, maybe it's just bigger there. Like I know in Korea, like, pay to win is like not frowned upon. I know in
Yeah. I
Western
mean,
culture, like
I
here,
think the very first loot box is Maple Story, right? Like with those little
hey,
tickets that you
Maple
like swap
Story.
for items or something. That's got to be like if
Oh,
like one, if not the
yeah,
like the
Maple
first
Story
one.
used to. Oh my God, never
Oh,
mind. So I
this is
have
where
to go
we
in the back.
learn that he spent money on a gotcha game.
No, let me tell you guys how I got scammed. Not legit scammed in MapleStory, but how I lost, like, I think it was 10, $15.
Whoa.
Back when 10, $15 got you a lot, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
As a kid, 10,
I,
$15 is
Yeah.
huge.
That gets you a lot.
yeah, yeah. So, um, it was like, there was a gachapon, but it had another thing called, like the marketplace, and you could post items there for money, like for their Nexon cash, right?
Hmm.
And I wasn't paying attention. I was feeling myself. I was like, I just got $15 in next. Like, I got 15K. I'm gonna go buy stuff from the, market. Cool. And I went and I bought like a pumpkin basket, okay?
Okay.
Because it comes from the gachapon. And I
Pumpkin
accidentally
basket.
spent almost most of my, like, I spent 80% of my money on that pumpkin basket.
You had
I
that
didn't,
pumpkin basket. Can you see that pumpkin basket like in your account?
if I knew my account, probably, yeah.
Okay.
It's still an item in the game, but I do not remember the account name. And also, uh, did like I like bought it, and then I was like, no, I didn't know it cost this much because I was feeling myself as a kid, like, hey,
I
I'm
can
on
get
top of the
get
world.
this and this.
Um,
Like 15
Yeah,
bucks
yeah.
gets me
yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So that was big sad. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess my first introduction to loot boxes was technically MapleStory.
Yeah. I think my first introduction was probably TF2. I think I opened for like some
Oh
Halloween
yeah, yeah, yeah,
skins
yeah,
or
yeah.
some Halloween
Yeah, yeah,
hats or
yeah, yeah.
something. When I was like, I don't know, in middle school maybe I'd asked for like same as you, Jay, like I'd ask for like a like $15 Steam card, and that would just go straight into keys, right? Because I like would accumulate boxes because I just like go home and play all the time. So like a Halloween event rolled around and there was like a cool like hat that I wanted. Obviously, it's going to be a hat. I don't remember what it was in TF2, but I think that was my first introduction. So yeah, I think maybe I've been spending a little longer than I recognize too.
Hey, they get you when you're young. That's how they. I mean, that's the
Yeah, I
truth.
mean
Though.
it
Like, I
actually
feel
works,
like,
right? Like you back
yeah,
keep going back to
Yeah.
Genshin and all that. So like social proof stuff, it's like it's going to work. Like the future of gaming, I am maybe pessimistic about like how much people are going to sink into mobile gaming development over the next like decade or two.
um,
Kind of want to touch upon the topic that we brought up right beforehand before we move away from it, which was like the regional differences behind like spending on
Mhm.
free to play gaming. I am not an expert on like different cultural
Yeah.
gaming histories, but kind of like a tidbit that I heard about that I think kind of reflects certain things is that like a lot of countries had different gaming histories entirely because of the consoles that that have access to, and so that causes like things to like shape out entirely differently. One fun thing was the Nintendo 64. That never really came over to China. As far as I know,
Yeah.
they had its own version. They had to like make its own version for it called the IQ player, and it only played specific games. Because like it's pretty strict in terms of what games could be like brought over and published in
Right.
China, and so like there's like a huge restriction on like consoles and like what games are coming over there, and like thing is like everybody has a phone, so it's pretty easy I think to like it's kind of your default like and you're gonna
Yeah.
get into it, and then if a whole country is getting into it, then it's like really easily it's really easy to like look around and see like what other people are doing to spend their times, and like you'll boot up your phone and uh play like a mobile game, and like and just like get into the culture of spending into it.
Hmm.
And I'm not too familiar with like South Korea, but I feel like the consoles there haven't been exactly like 1-to-1 compared to like, I feel like US and EU are pretty similar in terms of gaming histories, but
Right.
it's interesting to look at like the differences in like um gaming history there, and I think it does like end up reflecting in like patterns and trends we see today.
To be fair, this my my anecdote of Korea being very gaming heavy was from some MapleStory article. Basically, you guys know Nexon runs MapleStory. Probably, anybody who's familiar with MapleStory. And basically, like, the reason they cater so much to their Korean audience, like, really, like, where they make, like, most of their revenue, like, I think I got exactly the number because I, I will tell you what I think the numbers are, but it's either 3x or 15x. I think it's closer to 15x the revenue of what like Korea makes for MapleStory versus what they do in it's either 3 or 15. I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but obviously they're vastly different numbers. I would have to look up the article again, but yeah, basically like, you know, and basically the article is like, in Korea, in Korean culture, like pay to win isn't as frowned upon um as it is in the West, and that's why um the revenues look so different. And
Mm.
so, yeah, that was like what some random article said. How true it is, I really don't know. But from even talking here, like, in the US, like, buying games, like, or
Yeah.
spending money on games. When we were kids, we
Yeah.
get make fun of for playing video games, like, so it's like, it's probably
Yeah.
like, we're
Yeah.
just boomers, but they're not even boomers. But yeah, maybe I don't know, like, maybe there's
Yeah.
still that stipulation
I,
for us, but
I guess another thing I may be curious about, and a big thing, just thinking about like China in particular, which I'm fairly certain has the largest gaming market in the world, is that there are probably a lot more gamers. Like I'm curious as to like the per capita for like gamers
gamers.
in like the US, right? It's like how much do we spend like on average per country? I
Uh,
imagine US probably comes out on top there. It's just a matter of like where the largest markets are, right? It's probably just
uh,
another aspect there that isn't so much cultural, rather just like sheer numbers.
Yeah.
yeah, so something interesting is in for League of Legends, right? Uh like we have, they recently opened something called Champions Queue, which is for professional players, but basically uh what I want to say is there's only one server for the United States, right? And it's on
Hmm.
the East Coast, so people who live on the West sort of have bad,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but but that's because our player base, like, League of Legends is like really, even like going back like 4 or 5 years, was like really the biggest game on the market,
Hmm.
or close to it. And so, uh, interesting enough, China has like no joke, like 10 times the player base that the US has,
Oh yeah.
and it has like literally like 30 plus servers. Um,
Oh.
so like it's really like even that number just tells me like, yeah, like gaming just different there.
Yeah.
Like and then esports is also viewed very differently, right? Like
Hmm.
professional sports. I don't want to get too deep into it, but also, Faker, right? I'm in Korea, Faker's literally a household name.
Hmm.
Um, that's how popular it is, right? Like it'd be like Tom Brady for the U.S., right? Or LeBron James, Michael Jordan, whoever you
Okay.
want. So yeah, like it's like that version for them. It's Faker. So it's also the way gaming is viewed just in general, I think. Um, so if Faker's like a household name, yeah, you can. It's like a very viable way to become a celebrity as well. Be good at games, be interesting or good at video games. So
Yeah.
The big cultural touch point for Korea is the PC gaming cafes, right? Like that's
Hmm.
where you would go if you're a kid to like hang out and spend time. And so, um, that so like it's really easy to see how like esports can just take on so much more in a country like South Korea.
Yeah. Who do you guys think would
Um,
win? LeBron James in Faker's body or Faker and LeBron James's body in a one-on-one basketball, first to 11?
dude, okay, this is a very easy question because
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen LeBron James in
Okay.
the game.
I have
Okay,
seen LeBron James.
I don't care how clumsy you are, like homie will fall over and break Faker's bones, right? Like that's how
Okay.
big this guy's body is. Like I'm giving
Okay.
Faker all of it, right? Like
All
Faker's
right.
100%
Okay.
win.
Really?
But
I don't
Faker's
know.
winning in LeBron's body.
The
Uh,
muscle
you,
memory is in the brain, Jay.
Yeah.
It's not in LeBron's body. It's in LeBron's brain.
yeah, it's in LeBron's brain, but the issue is LeBron's not used to Faker's body. Like, he's used to having
Why would
a
Well, like,
freight train.
why would Faker be used to LeBron's
to
body?
LeBron's body?
Yeah. So the thing is, he doesn't need to be. He can literally all you need to figure out how to do is dribble the ball. LeBron's James like fully
Well, I
standing.
mean,
Like,
he also needs
reaching
to.
out, can
What? Like,
basically touch the
He
rim.
won't know how to dribble the ball.
yeah, he'll have to
No,
learn
no,
how to dribble the ball. He'll have to
Jay,
learn how to.
dribbling the ball.
You think
is
Faker's ever
Faker's
dunked?
body.
You think he has like the muscle memory of how to dunk
He
a
doesn't.
basketball?
The thing is, he doesn't need to learn to dunk because literally jumping in
He needs
LeBron
to
James'
shoot.
body is probably like flying. Okay, you don't need a shoe. You can just back him down, kapow, just run at him.
Okay, all right.
Dunk.
Maybe you would win in
Like a
LeBron's
power
body.
move.
I don't know.
I forgot that was coming.
Look, all I'm saying is I think y'all underestimating LeBron James' body. Okay,
Okay,
that
okay.
man is.
Faker in LeBron James's body is gonna see the angles to gank LeBron in the jungle that is the basketball post, and then just do the
Yeah.
kapow move over
Yeah.
Dude,
LeBron in Faker's body.
you can't spend 2 million plus on a body and tell me like, put a random person in that body and they're not good at physical sports. Nah, I don't care how, clumsy you are. You got
Uh,
it.
Sounds like it's even to
You
me.
got
It's a close. It'll be a close one.
It's
Faker
okay,
wins. Faker wins like 11-9 or something.
I feel like
Yeah,
LeBron
I agree.
Faker's body will win. Like he could. LeBron
Ah.
will know like how to shoot. Like you don't
That's
even have
true,
to go
yeah.
close to Faker and LeBron's body. You can just shoot from three, or he'll know the actual angles to like gank Faker.
but no, there's no. I don't believe it because
Okay.
like even like I don't know. It can't be that hard to figure out how to shoot, right? Like it's not like some
It
sort
is
of.
really hard. No, it is really hard.
I
I
think it's really
We'll pay millions of dollars for a shooting coach.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to be consistent and good at it. But you have to beat a tiny person. Like LeBron is literally like a foot taller than Faker,
Probably.
right? Like,
That's true.
Shooting is pretty hard. Shooting is pretty hard. Just getting the ball in the basket if you never touch the ball, it is pretty hard.
but you don't think Faker's like ever played a sport? Like, no?
He's probably played a sport.
Yeah, all right.
I don't know if that
You
gives
think-
him like an
It's
edge though.
equivalent to
Like
being a
I don't think
professional athlete.
that we're not saying like he literally has to learn the to dribble as in he's never seen like a basketball before. He'll like get it and be like, what is this?
Okay, look,
Eh.
you guys are convincing me that it'd be closer, but I'm still giving it to Faker, LeBron's body.
Okay.
It's all right. I'll die on my camp. I'll die on my. I think LeBron has enough fans, but I think here I'll have to die on the LeBron fan camp.
Perfect. Given that, do you guys want to just go around and give some closing thoughts on free-to-play games? Yeah, just closing thoughts, and we'll end with a listener question.
Sure. Justin, you want to kick it off? I feel like I kicked off some of the stuff in the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think what we talked about were like Genshin Impact is gonna be every game that releases is probably gonna be a Genshin Impact like all the similar. I mean, there's little detail like little differences, but we'll definitely start to see that because executives and companies like the big ones are just gonna follow the trend, and so like free to play games are gonna be around for a while. There's like a bit more literacy around them, so I think people are a little bit smarter, and like devs can't get away with too much stuff, or like businesses can't get away with too much stuff like hurting the consumer. And at least there are a few more options for people to like spend their money on like experiences that they value. But it's like it's a good and the bad. I think like the good part about free to play is like it sort of doesn't cost you anything to play.
Yeah.
Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As long as you don't fall into it. But like, there's still value in having something with a low floor that everybody can get into, and it's easy to like get your friends to play. Easy enough to get your friends to play. Hopefully they don't blame you for like their bank accounts defaulting because they spent like $10,000 pulling for a husbando.
Yeah. I think I am a massive grinder. I'm big, like best in slot, probably like pay to win if I were into like the gameplay of like any mobile game that exists, which kind of scares me because the minute they put out like a Monster Hunter that requires me to purchase my weapon, it's over for me, right? It's like I'm in the hole. But I think in general, like the way that
bad.
Yeah, unless they're bad,
They're
then
bad in that game.
if they start like balancing like a meta game around these pay to win characters, in whatever game it ends up being, like that's how I know we're kind of doomed, because you're gonna like, if I am playing that game, you're going to have to buy what is meta or like roll for what is meta, and then next season it's going to be something new. Anyway, I'm a bit pessimistic about the state of like what free to play games are, and it's hard to deny where the money is, right? Considering mobile games is like the largest revenue out of like any other platform, probably eventually combined. But I understand it's here to stay. I'm definitely just going to be cautious myself, but as long as people are aware, like you said, and looking out for some of the more kind of sly tactics that they use to kind of get you to progress, provide you with some conveniences, then as long as you're free to spend your money how you want and play the game how you want. Just when the way that a game is designed is just makes it so impossible to play without that, that's where I start to get worried.
Yeah, if you're playing a mobile game, look up guides for like spend like it to see if it's worth spending. People will put a lot of time, and I think those are good resources if you don't know about them, if you're like into mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as for myself, honestly, my favorite games that are the games I put the most hours in are free to play games, Path of Exile, etc. However, I absolutely hate free to play games monetization models, and they're so super predatory. And the biggest issue that I have with it, truthfully, is what Justin said: is people follow the money. I don't know if you guys have recently heard, but like BMW is literally putting in like a subscription for their like heated seats. And I hate the subscription model now because everybody does it,
What?
and it's so freaking troll. Yeah, exactly. It's so freaking troll. Like
The
literally, you buy the
BMW Battle Pass.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so with with all these predatory monetization methods being successful is the issue, is where you know it overflows into all other aspects of things, and so that's my real biggest concern. I'm like Teddy, pessimistic, hate the way it's moving
just like,
towards.
like games as a service, right? Anything as a service is kind of the model that we'll end up with.
Yeah. And then our listener question of the day is, what is your favorite free-to-play game? Leave it in the comments below, / email us at pendingname@gmail.com.
Thanks, Jay.
And yeah, I think we can hit stop recording.
Alrighty. Thanks, folks.
Good.